It's Monday. Are you ready? Welcome to another edition of Almond Delights Reading Corner. Come on in and relax your spirit, relax your body, relax your mind as we get into this book. The next book we'll be reading is Boys Like Me by yours truly, James Colwell. Head on over to Amazon.com and download your books today. Please support our authors. Now sit back as we get into this book with the Almond Delights. Are you ready? Shh. Let's read. Good evening and welcome to another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner, where we will continue our read of Boys Like Me by yours truly, Mr. James Colwell. I hope you guys are enjoying your evening, your morning, or your afternoon, whatever time of the day you shall consume these words. So I am Miss Almond Brown, 09. We're going to continue our read this week. To recap what we read last week, some of it. We know he spoke about his godfather, the death of an icon. That was chapter 6, if I'm not mistaken. And we know that he was afraid that his godfather didn't know that he was different. But his godfather already knew because he was named after him. He like, that's my boy. How would you think that I didn't know, how he was, so to speak? So I hope you guys have your books ready. We're going to read a disclaimer. There will be some choice words in this book that Miss Almond Brown would not normally say, but I'm going to give you the full essence of the author, okay? So we're going to get started, and we are on chapter 7 this week, and this is the second part of the book. The world is a different kind of place, okay? So chapter 7 is family. Listen, and if y'all hear noise in the background, excuse it. Family versus the world. By the age of 9, I knew that there was something about me that was definitely different than everyone that I was around. The truth was, it wasn't just sexuality. I absolutely had nothing in common with my family. I couldn't actually identify with one member of my immediate family or my extended family. I just had a completely different thought pattern. And then there was the obvious difference that I had with other little boys. It was weird for everyone else. It has never bothered me. I never wanted it to be a carbon copy of anyone. This was a good thing. I feel as I look back on it all. I had no identity issues because I was always free to and willing to express myself. I had already begun to build a tough skin before I ever got to school age, so I wasn't blindsided by the bullying and name calling. It's a shame, but it was already becoming my normal. As an adult, when I talk about some of my adolescence with my mom, she asked me, if things were so bad in a place, why would you go back? You weren't made to go to these places. I then explained to her, this was a large part of what went on everywhere I went. It was pretty much the norm. I didn't even have to do anything to get it started, just show up. And when I say everywhere, that's what I mean. My mom's house, my grandmother's house, my cousin's house, my godparents' house, the playground, the school, and on and on. I could literally be walking to the store and someone would yell, faggot, from a car window or a house window, and then duck their head back in. I've always thought that the behavior was idiotic and cowardly. Why throw a rock and hide your hand? Stand in your dirt. To tell the truth, there wasn't very much that could be said to hurt my feelings out in the world, for I had fear if all at home. I would have to come up with something more creative. You would have to come up with something more creative if you wanted to get me rattled. When people would ask me in my adolescence if I was gay, I would reply, no. And the funny thing is, as far as I was concerned, that was true. I wasn't anything but James. I wasn't attracted to anyone. My hormones were late kicking in, and I believe it was due to so much other turmoil swirling in my life. That was the last thing I was thinking about. I knew that I was different in the early years. When everybody was looking for boyfriends and girlfriends, I didn't want a boyfriend, but I knew that I definitely didn't want a girlfriend. All of that running around collecting folks' phone numbers just seemed so silly to me. I never had an actual strong feeling of physical attraction toward another person until I was 16, which was the summer before I started my senior year of high school, which also happened to be the same time I began my journey to learn to sew and design clothes. Trust me when I tell you, patterns, fabrics, and thread won out over strange feelings and urges. My creative genes always win over my animalistic ones. I remember the day that my hormones kicked in just like it was yesterday. It was a summer day, and I was standing in our kitchen looking out of the large sliding glass doors that are between me and the side porch outside. There were several other guys playing football in the street, like they always did. I never found it interesting, and this day was no different. The game was so uneventful, as were the players, except this one. For some reason, I couldn't figure out why I kept staring at him. It was the weirdest thing. I had gone to school with him every day for the past 3 years, and I had to pay him all that much attention. I mean, I wasn't crazy. I thought he was cute, but that was as far as it went. And at this time, I had experienced plenty of indecent proposals that I had no interest in. For whatever reason, today, I was checking him out like one of the Twilight vampires. I took in his whole essence, and I had him on lock just as if I was hunting prey. Okay? After I realized over 30 minutes had gone by, I had to laugh at myself for almost being a stalker mode, or was I? I figured out later that evening what the rush of emotions was. These moments were a little tough, because I literally had no one to talk them over with, and no one to warn me what was coming. I think in some way it is for the best that I had to figure out my adolescence alone, because I was slow on the trigger and I was clueless of what I was shooting at. I know for a fact that when I did give up my virginity 5 years later to an older guy from the other side of town, I wasn't led by fear, ignorance, or peer pressure. It was simply my time, and I was old enough to make an informed decision. I have to say, not being really friendly with the guys my own age probably did help me in that weakened state on that summer day at the age of 15. Because we had been having some type of dialogue or rapport, old boy would have been able to talk to me into anything. It was truly a hot day, and the air conditioners were not taking care of my heat. Lord knows, a single sewing machine saved me and kept my virtue intact for another 5 years. My growing up as a different teen left me on many occasions feeling like I was lonely in a crowded room. Truly, that's the feeling I carried around most of the time. I've always enjoyed my alone time, me and my music and my crafts. There truly wasn't enough hours in the day. I'm most comfortable when I'm alone. There are very few times that I feel like I'm a part of a group or a unit. I always feel like it's me and I'm with all the other people. I remember feeling this at all the gatherings growing up. While going through old photos, I see myself in my own birthday parties and I look like a guest. This is something I must work on myself because I still experience this feeling today at age 41. There are very few times and people that I feel close enough to let my guard down with, and sometimes I simply can't. It just is what it is. When it would be just me and my grandmother one-on-one, I felt completely engaged. The same thing with my mother. But the strangest thing is, when a conversation is involving my mother and my brother, I become the outsider. It's the weirdest thing. I always feel as though I'm sitting in on their conversation. It used to bother me, but it doesn't anymore. I know for sure that it's nothing that they're doing. They just really do have more in common. Two facts that I can openly state are: I know that my mother and my brother love me unconditionally. My mother is who she is, and she is the only family member that I have to date that has always stood in her truth, no matter how anybody felt and what was said. She stated early in my adulthood that she is not happy with the fact that I'm gay. It is not her choice for me, and she is only going to be comfortable with so much of my lifestyle in her presence. And as time has gone on, that comfort level has grown tremendously. Her comfort level is tested when it comes to love interests, and when we just do not approach that. I respect her in the fact that she is honest about her feelings, and I go out of my way to keep her comfortable, within reason, with the things that I can control. An example of that is, early on, when I was in my 20s, I did work as a licensed cosmetologist, and my hairstyle was forever changing. This used to drive my mother crazy, to the point where she said to me, "You're not going anywhere with me with your hair like that." Well, there was no argument or debate. I told her to have a great day, and I kept it moving. This was not in reason. It was extremely self-centered and obnoxious. My take on it is that she was worried about what other people's thoughts, and that is unacceptable. Another example is, I know she has an issue with the whole dating and love interest situation. I dated the same guy for roughly 8.5 years, and he has only been in my mother's presence 3 or 4 times, for no longer than a 15-minute period. I had no problem with this. He was dating me, not her, and there wasn't any pressing reason that either one of them had to be put in a position of discomfort. Now, as far as my brother is concerned, there is no conversation needed that involves my sexuality. He will not even entertain dialogue with people about it. He doesn't find it necessary. There was an instance when he was around 16 where a family member and a few of their children basically ambushed him and tried to drill him on his feelings about my sexuality and how it made him feel. He let them know politely that they were out of order and not to ever cross that bridge again. The second fact is, when it comes to verbal abuse and hurt feelings, the world has no chance to place its mental scar on me. My family had assured that all of my scars were in place by the time I entered 2nd grade. And scene. We're going to take a brief intermission. Don't go nowhere. We're going to come back. I'm just going to let you know what you're doing right now. It's Monday. Are you ready? Welcome to another edition of Almond Delights Reading Corner. Come on in and relax your spirit, relax your body, relax your mind as we get into this book. The next book we'll be reading is Boys Like Me by yours truly, James Colwell. Head on over to Amazon.com and download your books today. Please support our authors. Now sit back as we get into this book with the Almond Delights. Are you ready? Let's read. Welcome back. Okay, so now we're on to chapter 8 of Boys Like Me, Growing Pains. As the world continued to spin on its axis, I continued to receive my life lessons in uppercuts. I had no idea at the time, but my skin was getting tough and I was being equipped to deal with the near future. I could never grasp why the constant ridicule was so necessary, but it seemed that my older cousins got off on it. I suppose this is a normal thing for older cousins and siblings to pick on younger ones, but the orchestration that was used by some of my cousins was more personal and detailed than most of what they would eventually accomplish in their adult lives. I have a female cousin who happens to be around 6 years older than me. She has actually been trusted with keeping an eye on myself and the younger cousins in the past. Before I go any further, let me explain the age difference in myself and my cousins. There is one male cousin who is 9 months younger than me. He and I basically sit alone in the middle. We have cousins that are 3 to 5 years younger than us, and then there are cousins that are 5 to 10 years older than us. Now, as I was saying, this female cousin was interesting. She wasn't necessarily mean at first, but that changed as I got older, and it was evident that I wasn't the one to roll over and play dead. So our interactions weren't always great growing up. Any type of altercation was always blamed on me, and she would be especially groovy if it involved her younger sibling or her first cousins. Yes, they were my second cousins. This was the case a lot of times, though I've always liked my younger cousin who was her brother, but he was the baby of their family and a total brat. And the rest of my cousins were pretty much prone to eat a mile of his shit. It never flew with me, and he knew it. But the fact that I wouldn't bow to the so-called king made me a target at times. When I was 11 years old, all of the younger cousins and neighborhood children that were playing with us on that summer day were instructed by my now 16-year-old cousin to stop calling me Shaft. This came as it always did. There was an altercation with myself and her younger brother, to which she watched go down. My little cousin was out of order as usual. Before it escalated to a physical, which is where we fast approaching, she intervened by standing on the porch, calling the attention of everyone and saying, "Shut up, faggot. You always starting. Y'all stop calling him Shaft. That's not his name. His name is Shafina. And that's what y'all call him from now on." Of course, this gained a good laugh all the way until I gave her one good swift, "Fuck you." But the instruction was successful for most of that summer. I was taunted and called Shafina, but it cost them. There were a few of those children that didn't get slapped in their mouths that summer, and they could all thank her for that. The cute part is that my mother was told that I cursed at her for no reason at all. Sometimes there were things done to cover one's own pain and struggle, but that doesn't make it right. As an adult, I'm a little more understanding about certain things, but to be dragged through the mud because of someone else's embarrassment is rough. Just as what went on with my god sister and her unresolved issues about homosexuality, this female cousin was harboring some of her own. She has a sibling with the exact same affliction. He is no different than me. He is and was as gay as a $3 bill. The funny thing is that he had the nerve to be one of the cousins that hung with my first cousin and antagonized me horribly when all along doing some man touching of his own. Once I realized that he was gay, it was many years later, and I was really disappointed to know that someone would be so self-indulgent and ultimately to a family member. I could have handled it better if he would have just hid in his closet and let the spotlight shine where it may. But for you to literally push me out on center stage and give input on the abuse, well, that truly is what a faggot is. These type of episodes flooded my childhood. Looking back, it is amazing that I even speak to or have relationships with any of my family members. A lot of things have been forgiven under the grounds of growing up and maturing. But the truth of the matter is, a lot of what was done to me was done at an age where these folks knew exactly what they were doing. And they have made nice and apologetic in the later years because there is something in their mind to gain by being on good terms with me. The cute part is that they don't think that I realize it. This constant back and forth did its toll on me as a youngster. I began to fight a lot, and it spilled over to my school life. My patience grew shorter as I grew older, and it turned into folks trying to psychoanalyze me without my permission. I got tired of hearing, "Oh, he has a chip on his shoulder," and "he is mean, and he tries to hurt people before they get a chance to hurt him." I just realized that adults in school setting couldn't just come out and say, "This child is gay and I don't know how to help him," or possibly, "I don't want to help him." So things quickly spiraled into a situation where I was looked at like a snap out or a bad kid, and this was so far from the truth. I ended up in an abundance of suspensions for fighting and cursing folk out. I never really understood the gay bashing thing until many years later. It was very disturbing to me. I cannot understand how some of these people could endure the physical abuse the way they did. I couldn't even stand too much of that lip action, and it was full out fight going on. I was in the 6th grade. I wound up going to St. James Catholic School for a year, and it was the most ridiculous experience ever. That school wasn't ready for my quick hit methods. They believed in talking things over and paddling. It didn't take long before I let them know that I was interested in giving out ass whoopings and not receiving them. After being there for close to a year, I ended up being placed twice a week with a psychologist that was located around the corner from the school, and I would go there midway through the day, and all he did was play Uno and ask me, why do I get angry? He didn't have any advice other than ignoring the mistreatment of others. I said I would give it a shot. I was doing well with ignoring folks, but dying on the inside because I was really wanting to hurt a few of them. It all came to a head one day when I came back to school after missing a day due to a dental appointment. No sooner than I boarded the school bus, I was told some of the disturbing comments that were said by a nun at the school that was an English teacher. As we got to school, I heard the same things in breakfast and three other times throughout the day. At first, I was just going to ignore the kids until the constant telling of the exact story. Sister Zachary was my final period of the day. The ill feelings had stewed within me all day, coupled with the fact that she never treated me very well, and it was evident. Once I reached her class, I took my seat, and right before she got started, I raised my hand and said, "Sister Zachary, I was informed by my classmates of what I missed yesterday, and I wanted to make sure that I didn't miss anything." She said, "Okay, and what did they tell you we did?" I said, "Well, the first thing was that you addressed the whole class and asked where was the class ferry today." Her eyes got kind of big, and I went on, "Is this true, or are these Christian students lying?" She then said, "Well, where were you yesterday?" At that time, I took one deep breath and cussed her out for the next 10 minutes until she sent someone for the principal. The next day when I returned to my therapist's office, I told him exactly what I thought of his advice and informed him that I would not be returning to his office again, no matter what the school said. And he should try some other profession because his counsel was bullshit. Within the next weeks, my mom changed my school. I was presented with the therapy farce once again in high school. This time, it was a well-known Muslim gentleman from my own neighborhood. I think his role was more of a counselor of sorts at Langley High School. We only had one session, and it was an epic fail. He started by asking me, why am I so angry and having these problems that prompted the school to involve him? I proceeded to explain to him some of the triggers that makes me snap at the other students and staff. His solutions were as follows. "Can't you try to copy the boys' walks around the school instead of your own walk? And try to talk with your voice in a lower tone." I realized right away that he was even more clueless than the Caucasian man that I wasted my time with in middle school. I promptly told him, "Let's stop this now, because I've always liked and respected you, and if we keep talking, that's going to change. You don't know how to help me, and you're not going to be fair to me or yourself. You are a Muslim, and I know that respect is a huge thing with you, and I'm telling you, I will never change me to make someone else comfortable." Catch? And I'm never going to accept people disrespecting me. I got up and excused myself and never returned to his office. Shortly after this, I fought a bit of a bout with depression. Things at school weren't getting any better. Home life was continuing to be brutal as it had been. Some of the things that I hadn't understood previously were starting to make sense and it was getting to be a lot to handle. Before I knew it, I was dealing with choices of suicide. It was just as simple as the fact that I had enough and I had seen no light at the end of the tunnel. I had it all planned out. My grandmother would be going out on that particular weekend and I would be home alone with my great grandmother who paid me no attention anyway. I knew where all of my grandmother's medications were, and we always had liquor in the house, and it would be seamless. I would take the medications, drink the liquor, go to sleep, and all's well that ends well. For whatever reason, I had a long talk with my inner self at around 3 a.m. the day before. As I've gotten older, I realized this was my form of prayer. I always believed that God lived within me, and He does answer you. I came to the conclusion that I was not solving anything by leaving, that the people doing all the button pushing, family and otherwise, would actually be winning. And how could I let that happen? I deserve to win in this life. I didn't ask to be here. I haven't done anything to anyone while I've been here. My spot is equally as important as anyone else's. And I was going to do everything in my power to make certain that the people knew I had been here. I have never again been in that dark corner, and when I hear anyone start to sound as though they are contemplating going down that road, I jump into action. I don't suggest that anyone work through it the way I did. There are licensed professionals that are a phone call away that can help anyone going through this. I was lucky and God had a plan for me, and that is why I'm still here. Because there was nothing in between me and those pills but the quiet inner voice of mine. The next years to come were when I really started to learn what made me happy and how to really go for it unapologetically. I accepted that I was different and it wasn't going to change, and why should it? I didn't even understand all of my differences, but I would welcome them as they came and I would rush nothing. About a year later, I met my absolute best friend ever, Stephanie Whitley, for which I refer to as Stevie. We were paired together by her mom, Juanita. I've known her mom as long as I could remember. They lived up the street from my grandmother. Juanita worked with my gram at the Bidwell Training Center, which is now the Manchester Craftsman's Guild. I had my first summer job there in 1986 working under Juanita. By this time, my grandmother wasn't working anymore. She left Bidwell in 1980. Juanita was fabulous and always so nice to me, very motherly at times. She taught me many things about the world of an administrative assistant and switchboard operator. She was the best. She would always say, I had to introduce you to my daughter. You two have so much in common. You would love her. And in the fall of that year, that's just what she did. Stevie had returned home from college and we met and immediately hit it off. It was a while before we realized that she was 10 years older than I was. But it didn't matter. I loved her and she loved me. She introduced me to the world that would ultimately become mine. She took me to my first Ebony Fashion Fair and I would never forget it. Such beauty, drama, and glamour. We went to all kinds of fashion shows, hair shows, concerts, talent shows, whatever my interests were that were age appropriate. And when I became of age, she took me to my first cabaret. And speaking of talent shows, I can never forget the time that I was set to perform in the Community Day Talent Show. I was 14 at this time. My cousins and I had been talking about this for weeks, and it was finally here. Literally hours before the show, we were down at my cousin's house, and no one was doing the show. Everyone had chickened out. Well, I informed them that I was all ready to go. It was weird because I didn't understand why they were afraid. It's just our community. But now I realize I could have cared less what the community thought. I was doing this for me. One of my younger cousins went into the house and told the folks in there that I was doing a talent show and came out my female cousin in her normal venomous way, questioning why I wanted to do the talent show and swearing that I was going to embarrass the whole family. I didn't even argue with her. I had plans and they didn't involve her antics. Stevie and I had spoken the day before, and she gave me the pep talk of a lifetime and said, "Go for it." That was all I needed. I changed my clothes and prepared myself to compete, and I did. I basically reenacted the Janet Jackson Control video, all black outfit and all. This was probably the setup for my future as a performer, and I had no clue. I watched the crowd as I began performing. It was really quiet, like people were waiting to see what the hell was going to happen. Within a minute of the dialogue at the beginning, it was all cheers and shouts for me to do my thing. I ended up being the winner of the talent show, and it was just a reiteration of my family and their convenient backing. After the win, the vibe changed to, "We knew you was gonna throw down. You tore it up, cuz." Ridiculous. The only praise I needed was from Stevie, and I had that whether I won or lost. And oh my goodness, we would laugh. She was as silly as I was, and we would laugh until we cried. And no one got the joke but us. She was truly my best friend and the sister that my mom didn't give me. She has since passed on, and so has her mom. But I know there are angels in heaven cheering on my every move. There was another person who grabbed my hand and introduced me to a whole new part of the world, and that was Raquetta Brown. I refer to her as the other mother. And that's just what she is. One of the most beautiful women that you will meet, inside and out, is my Raquetta. She has known me all my life. But as I reached adulthood, she and I bonded like cement, forming a completely different relationship than what was there before. She introduced me to the world of cosmetology and single-handedly taught me the proper way to conduct yourself in an adult setting, the do's and don'ts, and how to keep a clean reputation and basically carry yourself with class, no matter what else is going on. I have carried these lessons with me all of my adulthood. One that has come in handy is, no matter how a situation is going with a love interest, you do not scream and yell in the streets. It's just not ladylike. Requetta has 3 children that are older than me and 2 that are younger, and I thank them for letting me borrow her from time to time. I think the most important thing that my other mother has shared with me is, no matter what goals you set for yourself, they don't have to make any sense to anyone but you. And every day is another day to go towards them. Thanks, Mom. And scene. Those were the 2 chapters this week. I don't want to go into the next chapter because it's pretty long. So we're going to wait for next week for that. But that was chapter 8. Yes, chapter 7 and 8 this week of Boys Like Me. I am going to drop the link if anybody wants to come up here and have a conversation, or we can chit chat in the comments. So I'm going to read some of you guys' comments. I thank you guys for being here for this read this week. If you want to come up, you don't have to show your face. Just don't show nothing else. Okay? But thank y'all for being here. Like, that was a good read. It was a line out of here that I wanted to read that I really liked that. Hold on. Yes, I will never change me to make someone else comfortable. When I say bravo, bravo. You have to be so comfortable in yourself that when you make other people uncomfortable, you still comfortable. Because some people know their presence. When they go into another room, they can feel the intimidation from other people, but that does not make you change who you are because you see that other people are uncomfortable. That's your business. That ain't my business. You being uncomfortable, that's it, with who I am, that don't have nothing to do with me. That's everything on you. You're not comfortable with who you are because you're intimidated by me. So I really liked him when he told the therapist that, the therapist trying to make him be like the other boys. Why don't you walk like the other boys? Why don't you bring your tone down a little bit to try to fit in? Like, why? Why? Once you know that you're different and you accept the fact that you're different than other people, you become way more comfortable with who you are. But you have to realize that their problem, not mine, is my motto. Absolutely, honey. Absolutely. That's your issue. That's not mine. But sometimes you got to point out to people. Listen here, just like he told this doctor. I'm not gonna change just because you don't like me. Sometimes you have to step to people. Now do it in the spirit of meekness. Now don't go with an attitude, because we'll go with a twirling some necks. Don't do all that. You know what I'm saying? Now, if they try to get all funky with you, then do what you do. But you go to them and let them know, hey, I am who I am and I love me. You're not going to change me because you're uncomfortable with me. So I really liked, that was actually one of my favorite quotes that I read this week from him. And then the people that he have in his life that help celebrate who he is, like Lord Stevie, she took him to all the places that he can go to that was age appropriate at the time, that helped to cultivate who he is nowadays. The performer, Milan Treasure, honey, if y'all don't know. You know what I'm saying? So that you find people that's going to help cultivate who you are and not hinder who you are. But oftentimes we find ourselves do conforming to the way our family wants us to be. But then later on in life, you realize, well, dang, I didn't really live my life. This was I'm somebody else. I didn't live my life because I am not who I know that I'm not the person that I knew I was, only because you was trying to make somebody else happy. Glad he found himself at a young age. Absolutely. Absolutely. And a lot of people don't get that. They don't get that. But when you're able to find yourself at a young age, once you get around people that you see are struggling with their identity, you're able to lead them through that because you've been living it for a while. You know what I'm saying? So two people trying to find themselves at the same time, I mean, y'all can try to help each other, but like they said, sometimes it's the blind leading the blind. And you know what I'm saying? If it's the blind leading the blind, then where you gonna go at? You know what I'm saying? But like I said, surround yourself by people who are gonna help cultivate the person that you know that you are. If you don't know who you are, then you still need cultivating yourself. Don't you can't ask everybody else to try to and I keep using the word cultivate, but cultivate who you are, because then they're gonna start throwing a little piece of them into you. When you don't realize who you are and you allow other people to try to build you up or cultivate, child, grow you, put their little stank on you, you know what I'm saying? It's gonna be more of them in you than you in you, and then it'll take a while for you to realize, well, wait a minute, that was you. It's like you're a mirror image of someone else because they wanted you to be what they wanted you to be or who they wanted you to be, as opposed to saying, be you. Oh, what did you like to do? Oh, okay, well, like Stevie did for him. She knew he liked fashion shows, doing hair, everything. So she went and she took him to different shows for him to be able to grow that part of him. So even as an adult, we have to find friends or people around us that are going to help push us forward. If you have people around you that allow you to be just down all the time or not motivating yourself all the time, and they're not helping you to motivate you, I say let them go. Almond Brown say let them go. Because why would you want somebody around you that's not helping you? And it's not even helping you monetarily, but just helping you mentally and spiritually and motivating you and saying, hey, you going left when you should be going right. You looking back too long when you should be walking forward. You know what I'm saying? You can never go forward always looking back, because you will never get where you need to go always looking back and traveling backwards. So we need to look forward, you know what I'm saying, to what we can be as opposed to what we were. Yes, the ladies around him with the positives seemed to really love him and accept him for who he was. And that's what makes you more comfortable with being you, when you're around other people that allow you to be you. But at the same time, once you stand firm in who you are, you can be around so many people that's uncomfortable with you, that you still, honey, listen, your back get a little straighter. Just because I know I'm intimidating you, honey, my back gon' I'm getting a little straighter, just because I know you don't like who I am. You don't like my essence. And it's not that you're boasting or bragging on yourself or whatnot. You're not doing that. But you baby, when you love you, you know what I'm saying? Can't nobody tell you nothing about you when you show that you love you. Now, it's one thing to say it out your mouth and tell everybody, oh, I love me. But deep down inside, you have so many insecurities within yourself, but you try to show people a different side. That ain't going to work, because eventually it's going to come out you and it's going to show. It's going to show. But when you get around people that really see you for who you are, and they're able to put that mirror up to you and say, look, you ain't really like you living. Just like social media can make people have a different perception of themselves, child, that you'll be a whole different person on social media than you are in real life. But you got to remember, it's people that actually know you. So while you around here trying to fool people into thinking that you up here, when you struggling down here, and it's okay. It's okay to listen. It's okay to struggle at times. It's not okay to stay in that struggle, to wallow in your struggle. That's not okay. That's not okay, because everybody has a moment in their life where they will fall, they will stumble, but it's the getting up part. It's the getting up part. Because if you stay down for too long, you're not going to remember how to get up. You're not going to remember how to get up when you stay down for too long. So if you down, okay, be down, but get up. But get up. So I said that because they tried to beat him down, because they tried to make him be someone that he wasn't. And, they sending him to these different schools thinking that it's going to change him. But he was steadfast in who he was. You know what I'm saying? So at a young age, him being steadfast in who he was, he didn't have to grow up not knowing who he was. Because it is one thing to be older and you don't know who you are, but you still have time to find out who you are. You can't let your age dictate on where you stop knowing you. You know what I'm saying? So some people say, well, they got later on in life, well, I don't know who I am, so you stop trying to find out or figure out who you are. No, as long as you have breath in your body, continue to figure out who you are, so that way you can help cultivate that person that you're realizing you really are. You know what I'm saying? Because you laid down for so long not knowing. But listen, every year that goes by, I need you to listen. Okay, I know this part of me, but now I need to figure out another part. It's just like you lost, you trying to find your way. But I feel like as long as you have breath in your body, you have time. Yeah, we don't know the day or the hour that we may not be here, but while you have that day or the hour, find yourself, your true self. Yes, like Slim 2 said, find your true self. And prayed up, the inner peace is a beautiful thing. It really is. It really, and when I say peace, baby, listen, I wasn't asking God for nothing. Listen, I don't want nothing monetarily, baby. Give me peace. Because when you got peace in your mind, peace in your body, peace in your spirit, baby, peace in your life, everything else is easy to come to you when you have peace, because your mind, everything is not jumbled up. Stuff not flying at you left and right, because you have peace. And you can think more clearly when you have peace. But peace doesn't mean that you don't have issues. Peace doesn't mean that you don't have problems. Because you can have peace in the midst of. You can have peace in the midst of. You know what I'm saying? Like I said before, you got to ask God to take you through instead of asking him to bring you out. Because the only way out is to go through. So go through your moments where you don't know who you are, but come out. Okay? Just come out. You know what I'm saying? I'm going to drop the link one more time. Anybody want to come up? Otherwise, you know what I'm saying? We're going to end this, and I'm going to give y'all a few church announcements beforehand. If you have not subscribed yet to Almond Brown '09, why? You almost to the end of the video and you're still here and you didn't subscribe? Why not? I mean, don't you love me? Don't you love being over here with the other Almond Delights? We love you. Subscribe. And if you're on Instagram, you can go follow me at instagram.com/Almond Brown '09. If you are an author or you know an author that would like to have their book read aloud here at Almond Delights Reading Corner, you can please email me at almondbrown09@gmail.com. If you would like to hear the podcast version of this read and other reads that I've done, you can go and follow my podcast at anchor.fm/Almond Brown 09. My alma bearer will be dropping the links in the chat. Thank you, B Scales. So yeah, you can go over there, listen to that. And there's other episodes, other things that I talk about on the podcast. One I did recently is A Thin Line Between Love and Hate. You can go over there and check that out. I did with my guest D, so you can do that. If you are someone that would like to participate in one of my podcasts, you have something you want to talk about, you can email me and we will do our podcast thing and I'll upload it there. You can share it. My podcast is on everywhere that there's a podcast. I'm on Spotify. I think it's on Apple. It's everywhere. So yeah. Just look me up, Almond Brown 09, everywhere, everywhere. So, but yeah, so that was the read for this week. I appreciate Mr. James Colwell for allowing us to read his book aloud on here. And you guys can check him out. All his links will be in the description box, as well as any other links that you guys need. Yeah, thank you guys for joining us for this week. We'll be back next week for, I don't think this is the last read. Will it be? Oh, don't say that. Oh, don't say that. Oh, yeah. So next week, oh no, we might have 2 more weeks. Oh, I'm going to make y'all wait. Yep. So we'll have 2 more weeks of the read. So come back next Monday at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for another read of Boys Like Me by Mr. James Colwell, aka Spill It Boy TV here on YT. I appreciate my alma bearer, Miss B Scales, and everyone else that came in. I'm not sure who all came in. It's not letting me see. But I appreciate everybody for joining me. Please come back and join us again. But like I always say, I love you with the love of God. And there is what? It ain't nothing you can do about it. But I'm going to love you anyway. I'll talk to y'all later. Bye. Thank you all for joining another episode of Almond Delights Reading Corner. I pray that you enjoyed yourself and you're relaxing your mind, in your body, and in your spirit. Come back and join us again next week as we continue our reading. If you haven't subscribed, please do so. Be blessed and enjoy your evening.